What's up people, it's Wasabi and I'm back with another review. And today we have the ATK U2 Ultimate Edition. There are just so many variations to this one mouse. I think it's like 7 and I'm just thinking what the friends. Anyway, this video is not sponsored. I got this on my own because the U2 shape from Zowie is one that I find very unique and I enjoy it quite a lot. And as always with the content on my channel, these are my thoughts, personal opinions and experiences with the product. Before we get on with the review, here's a quick look at the packaging because that's what you pay for too. Inside the box, you got the 8K polling rate receiver, an ATK U2 mouse, USB-C charging cable, this one is pretty stiff, extra set of red colored skates, there is already one set of grey skates that come pre-installed on the mouse, and you got a set of grip tapes as well, an instruction manual, a warranty booklet, and that's pretty much all that's included inside the box. Now before we go any further, let's manage some expectations here real quick. This is pretty much a clone of Zowie's U2 model. ATK did not even bother to change the damn name. I'm Chinese and honestly from the bottom of my heart, I am quite embarrassed that they took it this far. But of course, for this video, I will focus on the mouse itself because I believe there are some people who enjoy ATK products and are more comfortable with their price range, and that's completely fine. The ATK U2 you can purchase from AliExpress, and I think it should be available for sale on their website in time. There are a total of 7 versions of the same mouse with different sensors, switches, MCUs, which I think is unnecessarily confusing. So I just went with the highest spec version, which is also the most expensive, and I got mine for about 73 USD. First, about the design, for ATK's take on the U2, it is very much similar to Zowie. I can't help but compare to the U2. I thought the U2 looked quite unique with its unishell button design, but here it's a split button design instead. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure I sound biased, but this makes a mouse of this shape look very uninspired. It's got a scroll wheel that you would commonly see on Chinese budget mice today. Actually, this looks like the exact same scroll wheel on the Pulsar 10 signature mouse, and I guess it's probably the same thing. But that's just the looks. You gotta keep in mind that the price, which is significantly lower than what it's trying to copy. You know, some people just want the biggest bang for the buck, whatever the mouse looks like, so who am I to judge? For the build quality, for how much that it costs, it feels pretty well put together. Mouse buttons, side buttons, scroll wheel are all held securely in place, and when you squeeze on the mouse with a reasonable amount of force, there is no creaking or flexing. So for the weight of this mouse, I'd say it feels pretty solid in the hand. The stated weight on the spec sheet for this particular model is 49 plus minus 2 grams, and on my unit with the default skates on, it weighs in at 53.2 grams. Jesus Christ, there is no need to state a smaller number. 53 grams is fine, and I mean, if you're gonna put a smaller number, people are just gonna be more upset, you know? Now, before I get into more detail with the shape and how it feels from my experience, to put things into perspective, my hand size is 17.5 by 9. The original U2 shape by Zowie is designed specifically for multi-angle movement with the claw grip style in mind. And this shape in particular, I would not say that it's one that I would recommend to just anyone because of the degree of the curves on the sides. It keeps your hand in a very ready claw position, and for some people, it can feel a bit too intense, especially if you would like to use a mouse with this shape for long hours in a day. The mouse buttons here are rather flat. It doesn't feel like there are grooves to support your finger positioning, and compared to the original Zowie U2 shape, it is very similar. Mouse buttons are at a mid height as well, so using the claw grip style, this can make your fingers feel like there is already some tension against the buttons, and that's also one of the things about this shape that makes it feel a little more intense. The most distinct thing about this shape is how deep the sides curve in, and it feels even more extreme because of how much the hips of the mouse curve out. And this also makes the front of the mouse feel like they flare out, so if you tend to stretch out your ring and pinky fingers all the way up to the front of the mouse, to me it does make it feel like my fingers are not meant to go that far. It's a little awkward. What feels the most natural when holding this mouse is placing my fingers up to this point here. I gotta say though, the curve on the side feels damn good when I rest my thumb there, and overall the design of the sides make you feel very locked in with your grip. The sides of the ATK U2 feel more gentle if you compare it to the Zowie U2-DW. To me, it does improve on the comfort comfort aspect, but at the expense of a more secure hold on the mouse. The peak of the hump is a little further back from the midsection of the mouse. If I compare it to the original U2-DW shape, the hump of this one feels just as flat, but the rear of the mouse feels much fatter, so to speak. This makes the ATK U2 feel larger in the hand, which for my hand size is not very good news because I felt that the back end of the U2 was already quite substantial. What's interesting is that the U2 shape was originally designed for quick multi-angle movement, and ATK's U2 makes Zowie's feel more agile because you have more space between the palm and the mouse, which allows for easier maneuverability, which is what this shape is designed for. I'd say that the minor differences in the ATK U2 does make the mouse feel more comfortable with the less aggressive sides and a more filling rear end, but on the flip side, it also feels less of a performance-focused shape. And this is not to say that it's a bad thing, it really depends on what you prefer. Overall, the ATK U2, while it is very similar to Zowie's U2 shape, it feels like it's tweaked ever so slightly towards comfort. But I gotta say that this shape is generally not one that I would go for if comfort is the priority. It is a shape that I enjoy using mostly just for gaming. Because of how supportive this shape is, I find myself being very consistent on this mouse, so it is very rewarding if you can get used to it. The coating here is pretty good. It's good enough grip for gaming. It's a chalky type of coating that you will find on most Chinese mice today. So when your hands are dry, it can feel sort of slippery, but when your hands warm up and you know it starts to sweat a little, that's when the coating really comes to life. There is a white version of this mouse as well if you're interested, so if sweat marks are something that you want to avoid seeing, then probably should go for that colorway. The mouse skates are very average. I cannot say that they are good or have the same level of quality as compared to stock skates on newer mice today from Lamzu or Pausa, for example. The skates here feel rather rough and dry on my mousepad, and they are not curved around the edges as well, which is something that is much preferred today. But if you do get this mouse for a start, I recommend to just keep them on and see how much you like the shape of the mouse first, then decide if you want to go for aftermarket skates. Because really there is no point putting on a good set of skates only to realize that the shape isn't your cup of tea. Now this part is to help people visualize the different grip styles on the ATK U2 with reference to my hand size. This shape is designed for the claw grip style, and for my hand size of 17.5 by 9, the shape and size for me feels just about okay, and it does feel quite unique from other shapes designed for this grip style. It is very supportive, especially on the sides. I use both a regular and relaxed claw grip style on this one. For the aggressive claw grip though, because of my hand size and button height of this mouse, doing an aggressive claw grip is uncomfortable for me. It's too high of an angle, which puts too much tension on my wrist. And for the palm grip style, this is not a shape that I would recommend to palm grip users, and that's because of the size of the mouse. They curve in too much on both the left and right, so when using a full palm grip style, while the top of the mouse feels fine, it just feels awkward for my thumb, ring, and pinky fingers on the sides. Like it makes me wish there was more width to the shape of the mouse. And for the fingertip grip style, much like the original Zowie U2 shape, the skinny waist feels nice to pinch, but the rear of the mouse is just too wide, and it really feels like it gets in the way as I maneuver the mouse within my fingers. But that's just how I feel for my hand size though, so if you have larger hands, maybe you can make it work, but I think if you are a fingertip grip style user, there are much better shapes out there suited for that. My version has Omron optical switches, and they say it's got their custom tuning or something like that. It's all very confusing. It's not bad at all though, very crisp, snappy, and nice tactility. They do not feel light, just heavy enough that you should not be able to click on them unintentionally, and very little pre-travel with a comfortable amount of post-travel after the click. I have a preference for mechanical switches, and I do feel Omron optical switches in some mice are pretty good, and this one is not bad at all. And on my crispy meter with the way it sounds and feels, I will put it right about here. The side buttons on this mouse stick out quite a lot. It does not feel easy to roll your thumb over because of how much they bulge out. Also, there is a spacing between the two buttons, which for my hand size, it makes it a little more difficult to reach compared to the side button design on the original Zowie U2-DW shape. The forward side button is a little harder to press than on the one towards the back. One feels very tactile and snappy, while the other is softer with the experience. Almost no pre-travel and minimal post-travel at the front, and for the back you get some pre-travel and post-travel, but not to the extent that it feels mushy. You will notice that the Pulsar 10's mouse uses the same scroll wheel design, and I find that rather interesting. The scroll wheel on the ATK U2 feels just fine. It's a very generic one that lots of Chinese brand mice use. The scrolling here feels very tight though, so as you scroll from one step to the next, it can feel quite abrupt. It's very unlikely that you will experience accidental scrolling as you're trying to click down, and for scroll clicking you just need a moderate amount of force. Now here's a quick sound test to give you a better idea of how this mouse sounds. This mouse is equipped with a port 3950 Ultra sensor, which is basically a tuned port 3950. And I don't feel a difference between this and a regular one. Honestly, if you're choosing which one of the 7 variations of this mouse to go for, don't be enticed by a port 3950 with a different name. Make sure to look into the specs and features that the sensor offers and decide for yourself if there is anything relevant to you. The Ultra version's DPI can be overclocked to 42,000, which honestly, as a gamer, this overclocking thing doesn't mean anything to me, but maybe it does to some people out there. There is something very odd about how the liftoff distance feels compared to all the other mice that I've tried before, and that is when I set it to 0.7 millimeters, which is what I normally use for mice with a port 3950 sensor with no problem. The sensor in this mouse does not seem to track unless I really push my mouse into the mousepad, and when I turn competitive mode on, it tracks better at 0.7 millimeters, but it still feels much lower compared to other mice set at 0.7. So having competitive mode on or off doesn't feel like the way it should. So this came off to be very odd, and people coming from other mice may find that it takes some time to adjust to, but other than that, the mouse has been working fine. You get a web-based software, which is really nice to see, and it's got pretty much all the options that you would need to set up your mouse. You can create multiple mouse profiles, remap your buttons, adjust the DPI settings of course, polling rate adjustment from 125 to 8000, lift off distance setting from 0.7 to 1.7 with fine increments of 0.1. You have motion sync, angle snapping, ripple correction, a competitive mode, and a long range mode just in case you need to use the mouse from across the street. Just kidding, but it does increase the range of the wireless connection. You also have rotation setting and settings for the mouse and dongle lighting behavior. Pretty much all the settings you need and more to configure your mouse to your liking. Battery life at constant motion, 1000 Hz is set to give you 240 hours, which is a crazy number, but that's also because this particular version has a 800 mAh battery, which is more than enough by today's standards for gaming mice. Battery life hasn't really been an issue for me because I have a habit of checking how much battery I have left. So when it comes to choosing one of the 7 versions of this mouse, go for what you feel is necessary. I think most people would just get the lightest version of the ATK U2, which has a smaller battery, but I don't see it as too much of a deal breaker, to be honest. This version that I have has dual 8K support, so for both wired and wireless connectivity, you can enable 8000 Hz polling rate. If you are getting this mouse specifically for 8000 Hz wireless polling rate, just make sure that you select a version that supports it, because there are 3 of them that do not. Aside from the lighter weight, decent enough quality, and points of interaction, this mouse feels very much like a Zowie U2-DW inflated with air. And what I mean by that is that the shape feels a little poofier in my hand. The quality of the materials, the buttons, and the scroll wheel experience are pretty much what you would expect from a budget mouse. It really is not bad at all, but it doesn't feel all that impressive or interesting to me. I like gaming mice for the experience, but I think some people are just fine with something basic and for the price, I really cannot complain. For gaming, you get all the tech performance that you should expect from high-performance gaming mice today. The weight for mine being the heaviest, it's honestly quite light. It didn't leave any positive or negative impressions during my time using it, so it's pretty okay. So overall, yeah, it's a decent clone. I'd say it feels better than Lemzu's clone of Zowie's U2-DW. So as far as clones go, it didn't really leave any positive or negative impression during my time using it, so it's really not bad at all. Now, final thoughts and what do I think of its value? Personally, I'm not supportive of brands stealing another brand's homework. And while I understand that there are people who are unable to afford products from the big brands or just want the biggest bang for the buck, I just wish more brands would use the resources to innovate and come up with new ideas instead. I enjoyed and still am enjoying my Zowie U2-DW for gaming. It's a very interesting shape and I really cannot say that the ATK U2 is a bad mouse. The ATK U2 and its 7 variations are all lighter than the Zowie U2-DW, so if the lightest weight is your top priority and you do not care much about anything else, I recommend giving the ATK U2 a try. The value of this mouse really comes down to the price, which at its most basic configuration is dirt cheap compared to Zowie's U2-DW. If you are interested to give this mouse a try, you can get it from AliExpress, which is where I got mine. And just to share, I don't know why, but on AliExpress, every seller has a different price, so be a smart shopper, compare prices, and of course, always make sure it's from a seller with some good rep if you are shopping on AliExpress. Again, the Zowie U2-DW shape is very specific, so it will not feel so comfortable for a lot of people. And I know Zowie and Zowie supporters are not gonna like this, but I am just being realistic here because this is my YouTube channel. The ATK U2 is a good option if you want to get a feel of Zowie's original shape before committing to the full price of a U2-DW. Now, will the ATK U2 replace my Zowie U2-DW? Absolutely not. In fact, the ATK U2 actually makes me appreciate my Zowie U2-DW even more. It's the feel of using a quality mouse on a daily basis is just hard to beat. I enjoy the feel of the mechanical switches of the U2-DW more, and the shape feels more focused, which to me feels better to aim with. Zowie's mouse quality feels like a mouse that you want to keep for many years and not just to buy and throw. But you know, that's just me. If people feel the ATK U2 is way better than the Zowie U2-DW, it really doesn't matter. I think what matters most is that you find something that suits you and enjoy using. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to support my channel. And I guess I'll see you in the next one.